Hello, beautiful souls. It's Dr. Danny. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome, channel members. Thank you so much for supporting my work. Today's going to be a very special podcast. I showed up on These Beautiful Souls channel on Friday or Saturday. I think it was Friday, and we had some pretty interesting reception. They run a community of high-minded, spiritual, fourth dimensional, beautiful souls that have been doing their work within the setting of the tropical astrology. And when they began working with the calendar of the Mayans, which includes a 13-20 ratio and I think 2026, or they'll explain it to us. Anyway, when working with this calendar and then working with the stars associated with these glyphs, they realized that the tropical system was a little bit out of alignment. So their community has been bugging them about me because they were talking about making the switch. And then my community was like, you should meet these people because they're about to switch. So I reached out, and what happened was really kind of miraculous and interesting. I find this so funny that these days, as I move into my more evolved higher self, that when I make connections with people, it's almost as if we've known each other before. The alchemy is wonderful. There's such a beautiful exchange of energy. I did readings for both of them. They did readings for me. And I came to find that I am absolutely in love with the flower, the dandelion. I used to think of it as an annoying weed, but when I shut my eyes and go to sleep at night, sometimes it just guides me to sleep. And it's really, really interesting. And I have David to thank for that. And then when I worked with Bella, she told me my Mayan glyph was the white mirror. And then it was associated with the star Alcyon and the Pleiades, which is sitting right on my ascendant, for crying out loud. So hence the background image that you all see today with the dandelion field and the Mayan glyphs. And I'm about to bring these two beautiful souls to the stage so that we can get to know them a little better and learn what they do and discuss their journey from tropical to constellational astrology. And then if we have some time, if you guys are interested, maybe we can take some questions from everyone. So without further ado, you guys, let's welcome David and Bella. All right. Hello.
Hey, hi everyone.
Hiya.
Thanks for having us, Danny.
Yes. Guys in the chat, let us know how we sound. If I'm too quiet or if they're too quiet, let me know. Make sure we're both equal. I hear a little bit of feedback on your end. I don't know.
From our end?
Yes.
Should be okay. Everything is as normal.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Well, oh my gosh, welcome. So I don't know who wants to start, but I would love for you to just introduce yourselves and say hello to our community. We have 10 watching right now.
Alrighty, you want to go first?
Okay. Hi, and super grateful to be the guest of this wonderful show. What are the name of the talks? Modern Magicians, is that what you call it?
Yes.
I love the title. And I think that pretty much relates to everything we've been doing. I'm Bella. I was born in Colombia, but have lived in the UK and in the US and traveled to many sacred sites during my journey. I've done lots of activations to do with sacred sites. I've been working with the Mayan cosmology for a long time. And since we got together, which was obviously a mission connection for something that we needed to do together, it was very clear from the beginning. We've been working with what Davyd has, which is all of the plants, and you'll talk more about it. And I brought what I've learned from the Mayan cosmology and everything to do with the shamanic part of South America, Mexico, and that part of things. But my background is in science. I worked for a pharmaceutical industry for a while until I woke up and then finally jumped to the other side to be fully with the plants and essential oils and flower essences and many other things.
Amazing. I just love her accent. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And yeah, your galactic glyph reading was really, really good. I'm gonna have Lori put the link to your reading in there because I mean, it was so simple, but it resonated so well. And I love the way that you described it and the reading that you did for me. So definitely check out her stuff. Go ahead,
Thank you. So in the reading, what we do is we go into your glyph, your galactic signature, which is a glyph connected to a tone or a frequency. Then we look at your oracle, which is like your medicine wheel, which has 4 other energies that support you and how to work with them, and to see where you're at with the challenge that you've added to your oracle. And then what is your birth wave spell, which is how often or when is your galactic birthday coming up and how to prepare for your activation. So that's part of what we do.
Yeah, I remember when I first met Bella, and she read my mind glyph for me, and it was kind of like a liberation. I suddenly felt validated for the rest of my life for being a bit weird. And it made sense of my preponderance to working with plants and to exploring consciousness, because with the cosmic tone, that is the nature of it. It's the 13th tone, and the Skywalker is all about exploration. And so exploration into the cosmos is pretty much what I've been doing most of my life. And suddenly I felt validated for that. I wasn't weird or anything, and it was like I was able to suddenly step into being who I'd always been, but had somewhat hidden it from people because most of it was a bit too far out. But misunderstood, yeah. So I can definitely vouch for the activational qualities of having your mind glyph essence read by someone like Bella, who's in the lineage of the energy. And from that point forward, the journey kind of with both of us started. But maybe just to go back a bit before that, my journey really mostly back in Britain, but also I've lived in many countries, Danny. I lived in the Middle East for a long time, and I lived in Italy in a Buddhist monastery. I studied for 2 years there, meditating, and a little while in France, and then got called back to Britain, and then deep dived in around 2012 actually into the world of plants after meeting the Mother Vine, the spirit of ayahuasca, in a ceremony. And she said to me, David, that idea that you were having about doing a conference to do with, renewable energy systems and to do with nature. Well, we're here to tell you that what you really need to be sharing is the intelligence of plants. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. I've got this very, very powerful plant spirit talking to me and telling me that I need to organize a conference so that more plants can speak to humans. And I was like, that kind of hit me really hard. And then I went back to Italy, where I was still studying. And at that time, I had a nettle tea meditational practice that I would engage in, very much in the style of Milarepa, who's one of my favorite Tibetan Buddhist ascended master teachers. And in one of those meditations with nettle, it's often quite like this. It can be very, very still because it's an adaptogen. It brings you into a place of balance. And it just came through. Oh, yeah, that conference that ayahuasca told you about, it should be called Plant Consciousness. And it came through so clearly. I was like, wow, surely somebody else must have thought of that by now. It seems obvious. And then when I looked into it, not really. The only person who'd used that phrase was a lady who was to become my teacher for 5 years, the wonderful Pam Montgomery, who'd written a book on plant spirit healing. And that was my entry point back, really, into the world of plants. Having lived in the deserts of the Middle East, I kind of had a nature emptiness. And so that then began a very long journey of plant dieting. I ended up spending 6 months in Ecuador, learning jungle medicine with a Quechua shaman and his family, and did around about 7 years of plant dietas. Literally turned myself inside out to understand the intelligence of the plants. But in doing so, healed a lot of stuff and learned many different things, and all at the same time working with medicine wheels, working with elemental beings, working particularly with nature spirits, spending a lot of time in nature, particularly in 2020, and just really absorbing all the aspects of consciousness through the environment, and particularly through the beloved plants. And I love the introduction you gave to dandelion. That's how it gets all of us initially, and from there it just expands.
Well, it's so interesting because, you used a word called an adaptogen, which is sort of a medical pharmaceutical term. And so you obviously know a lot more about the plants, like physical nature, physical structure, but then you do the dieta, which is like the little death with the plant, right? You basically like take it and till it, you're one with that plant, and then it begins to commune with you in a spiritual way as well. So you also get not just its physical, chemical, and natural properties, but its quantum, cosmic, energetic properties.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, after spending time in South America doing various dietas and understanding the nature of the dieta, and of course, in South America, they tend to use an entheogen like ayahuasca to open you up into the non physical space. But when I returned to Britain, I realized that we had our own plant medicine that grew in a field behind my house, which was more suited to me because it's of my land. And I then began a journey working with the plants and trees of Britain, and working very much with the hedgerow plants and the garden plants, the dandelions, the nettles, the oaks, the hawthorns, the hollies, and had really, really powerful experiences with many of them. Also, followed the poison path for a while, working with some of the more toxic plants and learning about how to isolate poison in my body. I had a few mishaps along the way. But the great thing about plants is if they want to kill you, they'll kill you. And if they don't want to kill you, you're fine, but you'll learn something in the process. And so,
Amazing.
yeah, most of the plants that I've worked with over the years, Danny, have all been super lovely. Some of them are strict and stern. The plant that we call mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris, was my initial teacher, and she still is one of my plant ally to these days. And of course, the Artemisias work on many things. But yeah, if you understand the plants from a gardening perspective, a herbal perspective, then you can kind of retro engineer back with the doctrine of signatures and many things about the plants. And that's when you start to have a more multi-dimensional conversation. Then you enter into the world of who is dandelion and who is the oak tree exactly. These are just not just plants; these are celestial beings. But we'll get into that a bit later on, I think.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about this beautiful Mayan calendar that you've been working with. It's been a fascination of mine for years because, my followers know I am just a fan of Venus. I'm a Venus specialist. I do Venus forecasts. I'm probably the only astrologer that follows her complete cycle. But by doing it consciously, pretty much similarly, I guess, to how you would work with a plant, I live and I breathe it, and it is my every day, except when I have to do the things I have to do. But this energy, the calendar of Venus, the celestial cycles are mathematically coincident with the Mayan calendar system. And I'm in the process of writing the manuscript for the Venus frequency, and this is a big part of it. So I'm like what are you calling embodying the learning process by working with you on this calendar. I do have to ask you though, what is today's glyph?
Today is the sun glyph, the
Okay.
planetary sun.
Okay.
And so on the day, the idea is to receive the frequency. So I tend to open myself to the energy, maybe wear something connected to the sun or something that reminds me I'm in the sun energy. And the tone number 10 is the tone of manifestation. And the
Awesome.
beautiful thing of today as well is we're closing the mystical column right through the center of this sacred round, this sacred calendar. There are 20 glyphs that are the mystical column. So it's the full activation. And I love that the 2 recordings we're doing are within this mystical
Nice.
column. So
Now
we're
you're going to show that in
infusing.
your PowerPoint, right? You're
I
going to show
will.
that?
I will.
Okay. So the sun glyph. So today's a day of manifestation. Are we about to, because I know August 1st was the beginning of a wave spell, correct?
The
Second,
second,
yeah.
yes,
The
of the
second
blue
wave
monkey.
of the
Right
blue
at the
monkey.
heart of this Solkin is the blue monkey energy, all to do with innocence and magic and playfulness, but also time.
And these wave spells are 13 days, right?
There are 20 wave spells of 13 days in the
Okay.
cycle of
And so
200.
we're in the second one, right? The second one of this 20 that just started?
No, we're right in
Oh.
the middle. This is number
Right in the
11.
middle of okay. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure, 'cause there's a lot of moving parts with that for me. So when do we shift into the next wave spell? That's going to be Wednesday, Thursday?
It's day 10, so 11, 12, 13 by Thursday. That's the last day. And Friday, we start a whole new one.
That's amazing. Because there's some really cool alignments in the sky right now as well, right? We have Jupiter and Venus conjunct star Sirius at the
Contact,
moment.
yeah.
So in the morning sky, right before sunrise, you can go see Venus and Jupiter making out with star Sirius a little bit to the right. It's just such a
Yeah.
beautiful scene right before sunrise. And so we have that. Also, numerologically, the 13th is Phi Day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you take 365 days in the year and then you divide that by the golden ratio, you get day 225,
Mm-hmm.
which is Wednesday, 813. Okay. So it's Phi Day. There's a little bit of numerical math in that. We're also 144 days from the peak of Venus's current cycle, which was on
Today?
March. Yes. No, the
Wow.
13th. The
Ah, the
13th.
13th.
Yeah, it's 144 days since the superior Venus star point, which was on March 22nd.
Yeah.
So this week has that alignment, the wave spell transition, um, like the Jupiter and Venus, Sirius rising. It's a lot of really good, beautiful energy. So I'm definitely feeling into that sun glyph today because I'm like, oh, the world's such a beautiful place. That's
Uh,
awesome.
and Sirius is super important because it's the one that marks the beginning of the 13 moon calendar.
Okay.
It marked it in the Atlantean times, it did in ancient Egypt, it did for the Mayans, it did for the Olmec, and now it's coming back around. We saw Sirius at the same time as the sun rising on the 25th of July, which is the day out of time, and
Yep.
then opening the Lion's Gate portal, which closes today as well. So there are so
Amazing.
many amazing things that correlate.
So we're still
Right. And
actually in the first month of the new Mayan year, so it takes a little bit of head gymnastics, but I think Bella's going to cover that in her presentation.
cool. Are you guys going to talk about the 13 moons in this?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because I had some thoughts on that. When I did the bat module, I was like, okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so all right, and you want me to share this for you. Okay, let me open it.
Yes, please. Because
Let me go
yeah,
get it.
I think it's
And,
better if we do it that way.
Our own
okay.
YouTube audience will know that the live streams have not always been kind to us. We've had all kinds of technical glitches, so we were erring on the side of caution.
I
your
know
part.
exactly what you mean. And thankfully
So
Mercury's going direct now. So
I'd like to mention that we do a show on our YouTube channel, which is called the Quantum Compass, and we cover the 13 moon calendar, the Soul King or Sacred Round calendar, and the astrology. And there's where we have been shifting from the Western astrology to the sidereal astrology, but coming to it as students, as learning and integrating the constellational astrology bit by bit.
okay. Let's see. I want to make sure. Do you guys see the slides yet?
Yeah,
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I guess just you tell me when to switch slides and I'll follow your lead.
Okay.
Okay, you want to hit play?
I'll go. Yeah. Good. Where?
If you want to hit play there, Danny, so that the slideshow plays.
Oh, I have to play it. Okay. Well, all right. Okay.
Otherwise,
There,
we get
yeah.
That's
There we go.
perfect.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Okay.
There
yeah,
we are.
yeah.
Good. So this was just an introduction, and part of the 30 moons and part of all of the new way of measuring time is very connected to the turtle energy. The Native Americans, we know, were very connected to the 13 moons as well. And we feel that we got disconnected from that way of measuring time. And the turtle is reminding us all the time, look at the 13 bits that I have on my shell. And so we're going back to measuring time in the natural way, which is including 13 moons and the galactic frequency of 1320. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can go to the next one, Danny. And please just stop us and ask any questions at any point.
Okay.
All
Perfect.
right?
I sure will.
This is the new time, and we all know that we're trying to anchor the new timeline for new Earth. And in order to do that, we need to realize that the Gregorian time is an artificial time. It is not natural. It's not symmetric. It doesn't agree to anything. And before that, it was the Julian calendar. And before that, there were other calendars. But what they have done since the 1500s is to lock us into the frequency of 1260, which makes our mind think about being productive and paying taxes and working and following schedule and limiting our creativity and pretty much sucking all of our energy. So the Gregorian time is the one that keeps us creating this reality that is not for our highest good. So that's why it's so key to switch from that frequency. And the frequency that we suggest is to go back to the 13 moons, the 13 moons of 28 days each. It's all exactly the same, and it's the natural frequency of the clock that is part of our marker in the sky, which is the moon. We know how important the cycles of the moon are for our anatomy, for everything that happens in our body, for so many things, for the water, for the plants, for everything. We know the importance of going with the cycles of the moon, and most people are disconnected in this Western society.
Yeah, I mean, the Gregorian calendar has been around so long that you would wonder that there'd been anything else really. But the more that we have investigated it and linked it back to when Pope Gregory introduced it, he also just deleted 13 days at a time. I'm not sure who gave him the authority to do that, but that was part of the process. And then if you link back even further to the time of Julius Caesar, you understand that this was introduced for taxation purposes. And you go back even further to the Sumerian time, and of course they were the civilization that was in control perhaps of a rebirthing civilization at that point. So without diving into too many rabbit holes, the whole journey of investigating the 1260 calendar led us into the world of timeline hacks and splices and reimagined history and the fragmentation of the Atlantean timeline tsunami. And it just gets more far out from there. But that's all well and good, but you need something else to work with if you suddenly realize you don't want to be working with a slave system. And so the 1320 calendar feels like a much more natural process.
Okay, so I was talking about the 13 moons, and that we call the 1328 frequency, 13 moons of 28 days. And now what we ran along with it is the synchronization with the sacred round calendar, which is a calendar with the 1320 frequency. 13 tones and 20 archetypes. And these we inherited from even the time of the Olmec. We're talking even 3000 BC, so almost 5,000 years ago. And they passed on this knowledge to the Mayan. So it's a frequency that it's like the period of a gestation of a human being. Corn also has the same gestation process of 260 days. It's like the fractal of creation. It connects us to the golden mean ratio, to the Fibonacci frequency. And what we want to do, and we've been doing, is trying to find that harmonic resonance. Because once we do, our mind switches to the natural cycles, then our body as well will respond, including our DNA getting activated to be part of the natural cycles. Anything else you want to add there? And then the other thing that we feel is obviously part of this is when we look at the sky, the constellations have to be part of it. They are the mirror as above, so below. So what we try to do in our Quantum Compass show is to run the 13 moons, the 260-day cycle, plus the now constellational astrology.
I mean, in many ways, Danny, it was through exploring the different time sequences that ultimately led us to the place of like, well, hold on, if the 1260 is a misaligned system that never allows us to go to the transcendent point of the 13, then what else has aligned itself to that miscoordinated time sequence? And that's when we really started to consider that maybe Western astrology was set to a slightly different point, maybe in the future, but it was always taking us out of the present moment. And particularly, for about the last year, we said to our audience, we're not feeling super comfortable using this system, but we don't have the actual technology or the guidance to make the switch. But what we did start to do was focus less on the signs that things were coming through and focusing more on the actual transits, and particularly Cazimis have been something that we've been focusing on, and actually a number of lesser known asteroids that have special relevance for our tribe. So the actual system didn't make so much difference in the end, but we kind of realized that the 1260 and the Western tropical system probably work hand in hand, and perhaps not necessarily ultimately for our benefit.
I think I agree with you. I think it's absolutely a different frequency. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just if you're someone who is moving through life and you feel a little bit out of alignment with your environment, like I don't know how many of you like wake up and go, "Oh man, I don't belong here." I'm too soft, I'm too small, I'm too my head is too big and my hands, my hands are so soft. Like if you put me out in the field, I wouldn't survive. I don't belong here. And so the resonance that I'm getting with the artificial system, it lends itself to a different kind of existence. And I think when you exist within the cosmic resonance with the sky, with the stars, with the galaxies, like then you're tapping into something, not just a new time, but an old time, an ancient time, something that we've long forgotten but are now remembering. So yeah, all right.
And I'd like to share how we got there, because it was a
Yeah.
process. About 2 years ago, one of the members of our tribe introduced us to stellar nations astrology, which is working with many more constellations and fixed stars, about 260 fixed stars. And we started the journey, and I even did the translation from English into Spanish. So the Spanish version is now available. It's a big book, but it's fascinating because it's about the mythology of the galaxy. So you get to go through all of the constellations and all of the different stars and how they affect us and where they are on your chart. And this material was channeled by two ladies in Hungary, Bea and Aneko, also doctors, I think, both one of them or two of them, I'm not sure. And they channeled this information in 2007, I believe. And so we came into this material and we worked with the tribe. Many people got it straight away and they got huge realizations out of that, activated their galactic DNA. And then we realized that part of the process of evolution for us was to integrate the serpent energy within ourselves, the masculine and feminine story of the feminine line, the feminine serpent line, which is all to do with healing and tantra, and the masculine serpent line, which was all about teaching and knowledge. And they had to be integrated within ourselves as part of this journey. And when
Oh,
we
I just got
completed,
chills. I just got chills. Yes,
are you
that's
going to love
100%.
stellar nations, Danny? Believe me. Once we got to working with this, we tapped into the next layer of that, which was the Christ consciousness, the Jeshua and Magdalene energy, the Christo and Sophia energy, and we activated a huge grid connected to that, which is also part of that because there are stars and constellations like the Crew constellation. And the South Cross is connected to the portals of the Christ consciousness. So once we healed and integrated the serpent energy and got to the Christ consciousness, we understood the serpent needed to be integrated into the system of the hidden. The hidden 13 needed to come back and be integrated because it had been intentionally being removed. So we were disconnected because the serpent, not only the foot of Ophiuchus, but also the tail of the serpent is right in the galactic center. And without that, it's like we're without the life force that connects us to it. So I think that was, for me, it was the path that brought us back to, we need to integrate Ophiuchus, but mainly the serpent energy so that we go back to activating our galactic selves as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's on the one hand, it seems like quite a big system to learn, understanding the stellar nations, because it works with your natal astrology, but it doesn't actually require you to have learned astrology to any real depth to be able to understand it. And the beautiful thing is, you can work out your fixed star constellational chart that they call the Antares code by working with your natal astrology. And like most of the things that we've shared over the last few years, we've tested all of them ourselves. Like when we were rolling out the Stellar Nations course with our friend, guide and teacher Leslie Shankman, I was actually testing it through my body medicine to see, okay, well, this is all sounds really interesting, wonderful creation stories, mythology, archetypes, many things that appealed to me. But I was like, does it actually work? And to my surprise, we combined the rollout of the course that we were doing, working with the 1320 calendar, so that we released a different nation every 13 days, which was really, really intense because it forced in the natural container of the 1320 to really integrate quite quickly all of the aspects of those constellations that we were receiving light from, which we would perhaps consider as our etheric DNA. So I can say that material actually activated the dormant etheric DNA in myself. And for the first time in my life, I started having communications quite profoundly with what were clearly other parts of myself, or what I would consider off-planet aspects of myself. All of which was facilitated by our wonderful friend Dandelion, which I'll get to later. Who's
Yes, I love dandelion.
yeah, well, he's a specialist in DNA, and he's been helping ourselves and our tribe in repairing our DNA by conscious meditation and working with our charts to help activate the inner awareness of our cosmic selves. But more on that later.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to dandelion. There's
Yeah.
so much to talk about it, and he
Yeah.
is the guide and sponsorship of everything we've done. We
Yeah.
believe that it was dandelion and also the cannabis plant that got us together to do all of this work on behalf of the plants, for a bigger plan, actually.
Yeah.
Because I was working in the lab with cannabis, trying to analyze all of the different components. And then I remember the plant, before I got to the lab, I would feel the sensation of the plant, and I would have a different taste, even before I got to the lab to analyze it. I had to do all of the different HPLC tests, and then do all of the different profiles. But the plants were talking to me before I even got hold of them. So it was like, okay, they won't talk more, they want to talk more. And that's been the journey, because when we started together, we started something called quantum plant healing, and we did a lot of healing with lots of people. But when we finished that journey over a year ago, it was very clear, like, okay, the time for healing is done. Now is full activation. We need to move on with time and all of the astrology and what we've been doing recently.
Yeah, and I can see one of the audience has put in the chat box, there are so many cannabinoids, and really we have a cannabinoid system.
Receptors.
Yeah, receptors. We also have nicotine receptors,
Yep.
and there's a whole rabbit hole to go into there with what was offered to us in 2020 and 21, and those people who imbibed the tobacco were the least affected. Interestingly, there's been some very interesting research on that.
And I started testing horsetail, which is an incredible plant, and it can remove, it has a huge amount of silica, and it can remove a lot of the heavy metals from our body. But also the download that came from the quantum was, this is the armor that you guys need for this next part of the journey. So we work with horsetail as well, big time. It's a very important plant.
Yeah, and perhaps in the process of doing the plant dietas, you start to learn the language of plants and trees and how they talk to you, and they have their own language. Like dandelion works a lot with synchronicity and asks you to be very present, which I'll talk about later. But if you work with some of the so-called sacred teacher plants or the entheogens, it can, after a while, once you've worked through the blockages in your field and cleared your field of traumas and past life karmas, you then start to have a more free and clear field, which actually opens up the possibility of non-verbal communication, which is something that many of our tribe members have started to experience as a collective unified consciousness field that we've created in our tribe. And it didn't happen immediately. It's taken a sort of dedicated group, probably the entirety of what we've done up until now, sort of 2.5 to 3 years of working through these 13-day containers in immersions that we were holding. A, to get used to being in sacred space for 13 days as a group. B, to allow the plants to speak to us, all of which was really just training for what we're now doing. So, there's always a before, where you thought you started, and so you can always go back. But
so lots of comments from people here on the chat about the endocannabinoid system, and that they also work with cannabinoids. It's incredible when I went deeper into that research from the scientific part, the amount of receptors, even as women in our womb space, we have receptors for cannabinoids. In our brain, we have receptors all over our body. So it was incredible to go into that and to start seeing which of the cannabinoids, if it was CBG or CBD, or which of them would work better in our body for certain things. So it's a whole field that I think it's still waiting there for it to be explored and to offer a lot for everybody, because it connects us to our 5D selves, and we get to access so much of the information, and our body is prepared and designed to work with this plant, and also with some of the the ones that contain nicotine, like horsetail, tobacco, and many
true,
others.
And
So
also, if you
we
just
went into plants.
if you just think about, one of the interesting things I think is that when you go back into history, you have plants that have disappeared, like the magical plant of Soma. Was it an admixture? Was it a type of fungus? No one's really sure. But what we can understand is that if you look at the science of ayahuasca, it's actually two plants put together. One is an MAO inhibitor and the other one containing DMT. Now, at this point, to the best of our knowledge, there's been very little research into this part of the chemistry of plants, but in theory you could take out the Banisteriopsis carpi, which is the vine, and the chacruna, which would be the DMT plant, and you could substitute in other plants like passion flower that has an MAO inhibitor, and other plants like, for example, couch grass that contains DMT, and you can make an admixture of both of those, and that would open up a different vista with the plant intelligence. So there is a lot, I think, that the natural kingdom has to offer us in terms of scientific discoveries, and hopefully beneficial ones.
I will have to apologize with your tribe, because we tend to go between topics and interlink everything, and we always have a huge amount of topics and threads going on at the same time. But our tribe is used to it, so forgive us if we jump.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Let's go to the next slide then.
Okay.
And we'll continue with the time part, and we'll leave the plants for the last part, which Davyd is going to talk more about.
Okay.
So this is the 1328 frequency, which is 28 days, 13 moons. So we would be in the number one, and today I think is day 16 of the moons. So it's by following this 30-moon calendar that we can actually enter and realign and attune ourselves with the planet. As I was saying before, when you look at the spiral way of time, when you look at time is not linear. First of all, time is cyclical, and the spiral is the energy that is infused in this frequency. The plants grow with this pattern. Our body reflects this pattern of the 13 as well. So that is part of what we're trying to reconnect with. We call a wave spell way of living. Following the 13 pattern. That's a wave spell. You can call it a dream spell. In Spanish, it's known as a trecena, which just means 13 steps. And so the 13 is key, and we highly connected to the goddess energy, to the mother goddess energy as well. And everywhere in all of the systems that we've been talking about, whether it is stellar nations that are 13, the soul king or sacred realm has 13, and of course these 13 moons is kind of the fractal of all of these that we're trying to do. Anything you want to add to this part?
No, I think it's just a mark of the beauty of the natural kingdom that the turtle has the 13 different aspects of the shell, and it's just such a beautiful totem animal to work with.
And there's so much mythology around it, how about the Turtle Island, which is part of the journey we're doing now, the Turtle Island, because we're following the moons with the turtle energy. The 13th moon has as a totem the turtle, so that is the destination.
And it's very connected to the indigenous cultures of North America. I think most of the First Nations people have the magic of the turtle and the turtle moons in their culture, and there are many other beautiful things about the turtle. And of course, really and truly, it's the great cosmic surfer. You know, when it's swimming the oceans of the world, it must see the stars as almost like swimming amongst the stars. And so I love the great wandering nomads that are the tortoises and the turtles. They speak to my soul.
So this is the journey we just started. 13 moons. Started on the 26th of July. We embarked on a 13 moon journey with some people in our tribe. So we do right at this moon, which goes from 26th of July to 22nd of August, is the energy of the magnetic moon, magnetizing what we want to accomplish during this journey of 13 moons. So it's a good period of time to think about, okay, what projects have you been thinking about? And because it's the year of the resonant seed, is what seed do you want to plant now? to see the results in 13 moons. And ideally, you want to work with things that you're passionate about, that your heart has been like calling you to do for a long time. And this is the moment to do that planning and magnetizing and connecting to the people for this. So that's what we've been doing, connecting with the people we want to work with for the next 13 months, basically. So we can go to the next one. Do you have any questions, Danny?
Well, I was going to say that there's a lot of significance to 13 for me with studying Venus. Um,
Yes,
the Venus cycle, she has a grand 8-year cycle.
it
And
does.
what you get is the retrograde and the forward motion and the 2 conjunctions that she performs. And
Yeah.
each one of those inferior conjunctions, when she's so close to planet Earth that she like literally like affects the tide, um,
Yeah.
that creates the star point. And you get 5 of those. You get it in 8 Earth years, and it's 13 orbits of Venus. So she'll swing around the sun 13 times. Um,
And
yeah, and these
yeah,
numbers 5, 8, and 13 are the beginning of the Fibonacci sequence.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talk about them in the navigation guide
Yep.
because chapters 5, 8, and 13 are very important. And we talk about Venus there because Venus was like the sister planet for the Mayan. Uh, and the clock was always marked by Venus, the Sun, and the Moon. It was absolutely key. And within the 1320 or the 260-day cycle, which is very close to the cycle of Venus as a morning star or evening star, so they followed it and they saw it as the goddess energy. They even created observatories just to follow the movement of Venus. And the calculations for Venus are part of the Solkin. And
Mhm.
we need to decode it more, but it's part of what you can see in the Dresden Codex,
Mhm.
which is one of the manuscripts that are still left from the Mayan. You can see the calculations on how they follow the movements of Venus, like a sacred move, when to go to war, when to do this. It was the most ceremonial part of the system.
Yeah, I think you and me need to get a girls' weekend together
Oh,
and
absolutely. Some
decode
fascinated.
that codex.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to the next one. So this is the whole year seen in the 13 moons. So we would be here day 17. August 11th is here, right?
Up here?
So
Am I
yeah,
pointing to the
we're
right
in
spot?
the third week. Day 17 in the blue.
Right here?
Yeah,
Okay.
so today is day 17 out of 28 of the first moon. So if you guys have been waiting for the right moment to start something, is now. Like start planning and get ready to follow this. So you can see the spiral energy here or the 13 tones on the right. So we are in the magnetic moon. The second moon will be called the lunar, electric, self-existent, overtone. Rhythmic is number 6, resonant number 7, galactic number 8, solar number 9, planetary 10, 11 spectral, all to do with liberation. Crystal is number 12, and 13 is the cosmic.
You know what?
Uh,
This is where I wanted to like tell you where I had my idea, if that's okay.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
because so in astrology, you guys have studied astrology. You know we have the house systems, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? You have the whole house, you've got Placidus, you've got all kinds of different house systems. It just depends on your latitude, where you are on Earth, that kind of thing. And there are as many house systems as there are systems of astrology, like literally
Okay.
whatever the astrologer's choice is. And what I like about this journey is it's very similar to how one might do a house journey through their chart. You have
Mm,
first house, second. I mean, you can give it the number first house, second house, third house. You can call it whatever you want. You can call the first house the magnetic moon. You can call the second house the lunar moon, the third house the electric moon, or you can just call it that house the electric house.
mhm.
And these might be, like a cosmic overlay to the houses that you're working with within the constellations. So, for example, maybe at the ascendant, you have the magnetic house.
Right.
Right? So your house system is based on this moon calendar. And then,
Mm-hmm.
whatever constellation is on their ascendant is also in the magnetic house.
Right. I think I like us to start overlaying and see where the coherence comes, like the flow. That's what we're inviting you to, all of these 30-moon journey, and see how by integrating, or the synergy of what you do and we do, see what happens at the end of it. I'm sure it's going to be pretty amazing. For sure. So I also wanted to add that I downloaded, had some downloads and created a whole course called The Navigation Guide to Quantum Consciousness, meaning 13 chapters to explain each one of those tones so you fully integrate what they involve. And they all are guided by a totem, an animal. And this is called the magnetic moon of the bat. So it's to connect with the energy of the bat. And the bats actually follow the magnetism of the planet. And they are the only mammals that can fly. They're amazing beings. They also spread seeds all around the planet to make sure the ecosystem keeps on moving forward. So they are amazing animals, and they are the ones guiding this first moon.
Right. So, I mean, the navigation guide really takes you through the different tones, which also correspond with the different dimensions, and it's probably the most profound initiatory course that we've done. But it's also one that you don't have to necessarily make lots of notes if you don't want to. It's best to receive it as a sort of a body transmission. But what's interesting is, this first moon of the bat is quite a beautiful one, really, in order to magnetize the things that you want towards you for whatever your year-long plan is. But then we have the Scorpion lunar tone. So that's incoming, but that's always a catalyzation point. And once you get into the 1320 flow and you start to feel the tones as the energy patterns that they are and how they want to work with you and what you're creating, it actually all makes so much more sense.
Mm-hmm. And so there is also something else for people that may be interested. I also created something called the Mayan Time and Magic course. It's for people that want to learn about all of those things. What is the Solkin? Where did the calendars come from? The whole history of calendars, the calculation, there are 17 calendars for the Mayan. And so this one is inspired in the Hab, which is one of the calendars, the solar year. But what we do with this 13-moon calendar is realign the masculine and feminine, the 13 moons and the solar. So it's a lunar solar calendar. We balance masculine and feminine by going into this flow and following the movements of the sun and the moon.
I mean, really and truly, the Mayan system does require some level of flexibility in how to cross-reference, because it can be confusing to understand that you're working in a 364-day moon calendar, but then there's also the sacred round of the Zolkin, which is 260 days. But once you kind of sink into the idea that one can be used for manifestation of much bigger projects or visions, and the others, in terms of the wave spells, constitute a more day-to-day routine, then you can start to find the intersection points. So we just started the 13 moon almanac, the legend of Turtle Island, when the blue monkey wave spell started, even though it wasn't the beginning of the moon, just to bring in the elements that we needed to start the journey with, because otherwise you'd have been starting halfway through a wave spell. So sometimes there's a little bit of play in how you want to work with it, but that's where understanding both the glyphs and the tones and the other energies at work comes into play.
Mm-hmm. We can go to the next slide, unless you have any questions or comments, Danny.
No, that's a beautiful explanation, and my brain is actually I'm working like in third gear over here, thinking about how to like put those tones into a house system so that you can add the tone to your astrology reading. Yeah,
that's exactly how we're going to create a whole new way of measuring time and connecting to the stars. I see it happening.
Yeah.
So we talked about the 13 moons. Now we're going to talk about the sacred round, which is the other one I was showing you. So you can see the amount of like hooks that connect one within the other. And let's remember that the Mayans measured 26,000 year cycles, 52,000 year cycles, 104,000 year cycles, the cycles of Venus, the cycles of Mars, of many different planets. And so we know the amazing astronomical abilities that they had, and obviously mathematical. So this is a very important one because it's the ceremonial or sacred part of it. It's a 1320 frequency or a cycle of 260 days. And as we were saying, so we use the lunar plus this one, and they connect. And the amount of numerology and synchronicities as you follow the two of them are absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about this one.
Okay.
If we go to the next one.
Next slide. Okay.
So, in the words of Jose Arguelles, who owns your time owns your mind. When we change our time, we change our mind. Change your mind and you change the world. It's absolutely key because time is of the fourth dimension and is where our mind is. That is why if we follow the Gregorian calendar, there is always somebody leading what we create, leading our energy, our creativity, and what happens to us. But when we switch consciously to this, knowing that every day has an energy, has a frequency that we can actually work with and know how it could be beneficial for us or how to work with it. So this is the Solkin, basically. You can see in the turtle here at the top, we have the 13 tones inside and then around the 20 archetypes or glyphs. And then you can see it on the left as well, 20 archetypes on the outside. And then on the inside, you see those dots are the numbers 1 through 13. And then this one also includes the I Ching. Some people include the I Ching as part of this, and it's part of what I'm also getting into, because everything is interconnected. Once you realize that everything you do in terms of, as you've said it, even in your book, that before to be a doctor, you needed to know astronomy and you needed to know astrology and you needed to know a bunch of different things, mathematics to be a doctor. That's before they separated all of the sciences. And I believe that we have to become holistic again. We need to know about everything is interconnected.
Right. I think if you're called to it, if you have the mind that can handle that kind of numbers and your spiritual, you need to educate yourself as much as you can, because there are the math videos that are available out there that will tie things together for you. If you're interested, are absolutely amazing, and they have millions of followers and views.
So here
Yeah.
I'd like to mention that in 1987, there was what was called the harmonic convergence. And at that point, there was a supernova explosion of the Tarantula nebula. And there was the moment of synchronization of 13 moons, and this calendar was done as well. It was done by Jose Arguelles, his wife, and many thousands of people around the planet did a global meditation for the first time. And that was okay, let's all go. And Sirius, of course, was part of the whole, what was going on, because it was during the time that Sirius was close to us as well. So there was a whole synchronization, and this is part of the system that we and thousands of people around the world have been following for a while. And when you talk to people that have been doing this, they are in a whole different space of consciousness. They are already multidimensional. They already live life in connection with nature. And I think they are some of the most awake people I have met so far.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, Danny, people question where did this system come from, and they point to the various different systems of the Mayan down in Guatemala and Belize. And we've looked at all of the calendars in the quest when we originally set out to feel into which one resonated the most. And when we looked at the other calendars in Guatemala and Belize, they were all interesting from a cultural and anthropological point of view, but they all seemed a little bit kind of misaligned or broken. And when you feel into this technology that Jose and his wife Lloydine at the time brought through, it's almost like it's actually the original source point for those calendars that then somehow fall a bit misaligned or get broken or, conquested by, in this case, the Spanish. But, as time sort of unfolds, things do degrade, including how people track time. And so really and truly, we see the 87 point as an opportunity that was taken to bring in and install a new system that was actually still the one that the original Mayans used, but was kind of like the original version.
Besides, we do
Nice.
have a connection to an ascended master that is channeled through one of our friends in the UK. And so when we have these kind of questions, I ask him, so I know the system from Arguelles is the one that resonates, is the one I've been following for years. Is this the one I'm meant to share? And he was like, absolutely, that is exactly what you're meant to be doing. And I didn't want to in the beginning because I was super shy. I didn't want to be on here, and I thought it was too far out and woo to be sharing it. And then turns out it was actually part of the main mission. It was to share this way of living in a different time, to be able to anchor a higher timeline for all of us. Yeah.
I love it.
So we can go to the next one. So all of us have a galactic signature. Out of those 260 combinations, we each have, according to our their date of birth, we have a glyph and a tone. So my archetype is called the red moon, with the self-existing tone, which is all to do with healing and cycles of time and help people remember who they truly are. So that's part of the whole archetype. And Davyd is a Skywalker, a cosmic Skywalker, which is all to do with going to explore different dimensions and gain information. Do you want to explain about your archetype?
Just a little bit. So it actually comes with the glyph kin number 13, which is really about being in service to the goddess. And the mantra for the Skywalkers is to bring heaven to earth. So to bring that, I guess, more cosmic light spectrum that we can tap into and bring it more down into the third dimension. Now, for the cosmic Skywalker tone, in my case, that's quite difficult, just from being totally cosmic. So, you know, this is where the tones that people carry with their glyphs makes a difference. So, for example, we have one of our tribe members carries the planetary tone, and he's much more able to be grounded and pick out the information. Or he doesn't need the full spectrum of information. He's just intuitively able to pull what he wants. But I found it interesting when you did the reading for me, Danny. Of course, my Venus is absolutely conjunct Antares, and it used to be in Sagittarius, but now it's in Scorpio. So my service with my galactic essence is always to Venus and the goddess, and it's now back where it rightfully belongs.
Right? Exactly. And I'm the white mirror, right? The white is that's this cross down here. And that is that's somebody that reflects
So we can actually look
or
for
me.
your glyph
Yeah,
here. So
cool.
this is the glyph of the mirror. And you can
Right
find
here?
it here, number 4. So your galactic birthday is
Is
coming up.
it is
Yeah,
it right
that's your
here?
glyph, number 18. So
Okay,
within
cool.
the 20 archetypes, your number 18 is the number of that archetype, but the tone that you have in particular is number 4, which is similar to mine. It's about looking at cycles of time and creating containers and systems for all of this. So part of what you do and I do is very similar. You do it from the archetype of the mirror. And I laughed so much when I was reading your book, the amount of times you say the reflection and mirroring and this and that. You use that a lot within your language because that's part of your mission, to mirror the sky here on earth, also bringing heaven to earth, but through the mirror, through the lens.
And of course, the 4 tone is also the reflexive of the 13 tone. So the Skywalker likes to work in space, but likes the space to be held and contained, which is the self-existing tone, which is also Bella's tone. So that's, you know, how we work as a partnership is that Bella gives a container, and I kind of bring into the container the Skywalker essence or whatever it is that wants to come through.
Mm-hmm. So as you can see here, this is like the main board with the 20 archetypes from top to bottom, and then across to the right from 1 to 13. There are 13 tones. So the combination of them will show you what is the energy that you have that you can tap into and create more potential for yourself. And I added this picture because it shows the mystical column I was mentioning before, right in the middle. So from the top, it would be 20 glyphs down. And today we're closing with the sun, the planetary sun, and the glyph 140. So that, yeah,
Oh
so
wow.
we're
Okay.
right in the middle of the Soul King finalizing this kind of, I feel it as a galactic activation portal, like all of these mystical column. And every time I got activated or received more information or more downloads has been during these 20 days.
So when we talked on
It
Friday,
was,
was it this
yes,
glyph
it
right
was the
here?
glyph of the earth.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you guys see that number? My audience, do y'all see
137
that number?
is when we
130.
connected. Yes, a very
Yes.
powerful
That
number.
is the fine structure
Beautiful.
constant.
So meant to be.
Yeah. Oh my
So
goodness.
and when
That's
we
amazing.
started these started here with the seed. So around seed number 7 is here where the throat is, and that was the beginning of these 13 months. So we're starting all of this journey, and it feels that what we're doing is attuning ourselves with number 13, with this galactic frequency, with the harmonics and galactic spins. So here's where we are, and we invite anybody that wants to know more. We do the Quantum Compass show. We always talk about what is the wave spell, what's going to happen for the next 13 days, what is good to do, what plant will help us, what is the shadow to work with, and then how do we transform it? Because the idea is to have strategies on how to transform whatever is coming. Empower people.
Essentially, it's working with quantum frequencies, and quantum works best if you're clear with your intentions. And if your intentions are in alignment with your own divine plan for yourself, then you can't really go wrong. So this is how we perceive being brought back into alignment, is really just to connect to the quantum field and those aspects of yourself that exist in the non-physical realms, and who can advise you from a sort of somewhat loftier place of wisdom, I guess.
So I think that's my last slide. If you want to go to the next one. Yeah, that's all of my slides. So if you have any questions, maybe from the people on the chat, or if you, Danny, want to ask anything around the two cycles that run alongside. So it's 13 moons and the sacred round, and we run with them alongside.
Yes, I think that following your show every 13 days when you guys update everybody and where they are is very important to follow. So I think Lori put the link to your channel in the description. But yeah, definitely listen to, subscribe to their channel, listen to this forecast that they do every 13 days. So that way you can kind of get into the groove of what they're saying. It'll kind of wash over you when you first listen. Like if you're meant to hear it and you're meant to be affected by it and you're meant to bring it into yourself at this time, timing's everything, then you will listen to it and you will be, okay, I don't like understand everything. Like I don't understand everything, but I understand it. And I feel called to continue, and you will, and it'll come. Like it's not something that's hard to get. It's just, you have to get into the swing of it. Yeah.
I mean, in many ways, that kind of is a nice segue into where the plants can assist us with this, because I remember when Bella, I've never really heard of the Mayan calendar, to be honest, Danny, until 3 years ago. And Bella entered my life. But what happened really was that she introduced the idea pretty much at the beginning of meeting. And one of the first trips that we had together was during the first wave spell of a new Zolkin, which is when the tone number 13, i.e. my cosmic birthday, actually happens. And it was an absolutely phenomenally synchronistic, magical day at the end of quite a magical week. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. So what appealed to me was the shaman in me, really, the person who likes to hold space, to take myself and other people on journeys, to construct a group gestalts and tableaus and unified fields, stuff that I've been doing for many, many years prior to meeting Bella, both for myself and in groups. And I was like, hold on, this looks like we've got a ready-made container to do things with. It's 13 days. And in all honesty, I would say it took me the first sacred round or Zolkin to get into the flow of it. It then took me a bit longer to remember what all of the glyphs look like. I'm still having some difficulty remembering some of the names. But, the point is, you don't have to learn it all as some sort of hardcore,
from the head.
Yeah, no. If you try to go into it with a left brain mentality, you're just going to confuse yourself. It's meant to be lived and experienced directly. And the best way to do that is really, I think, just to follow the quantum compass and just acknowledge that there is a 13-day wave spell taking place. And once you get into the flow and movement of the waves, you can start to see how amazingly accurate it is, because it often seems to coalesce perfectly with astrological alignments to create sort of powerful pinch points. And more than anything else, what it did for me was it got me out of the Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, there's a week and a weekend kind of a mentality, which I started to realize gives you the option of opting out. I've realized that many people time fill because the rest of their week is so sort of mundane and the same as the previous day, that it's sort of, you end up not appreciating time in the same way. But when you're in a 13-day wave spell, every day is significantly different energetically to the previous day. And if you're following the 13 days consciously, you actually want to actively participate in each day more fully. And as you do that, you suddenly start to lose track of the days of the week and even the dates sometimes, which is kind of what's happened to me over the last few weeks. But I can tell you exactly which moon we're in, which wave spell we're in, and which glyph or tone of day we're in. And so in that way, the Mayan time calendar really offers you the opportunity to have a mini adventure every day, a medium-sized adventure every 13 day, or a much longer one, depending on which of the calendars you want to choose. And for somebody who's always been good at telling stories and comes from something of a bardic family, that just appealed to the inner bard in me.
And we call it the Mayan calendar, but it's not really the Mayan calendar. It's much more than that. It's a galactic calendar, or a synchronotron, they call it, within the law of time groups. But to me, is simply the way of going back to our full realignment within ourselves and selves. In connection to the stars and the real cycles of the galaxy. One of the beautiful things you can do when you follow the wave spells is that there is a wave spell to create magic, like this one we're in. The next one is about seeding, putting the seeds of something that you want to do for 13 days. There are wave spells for healing. There are wave spells that are good for creativity. There are wave spells that are good for all different. So every wave spell has a theme. And when you jump into it, it's like you have a journey. You have an experience of 13 days, which is like exciting. And we even traveled around Mexico and different places with a wave spell. So, okay, this wave spell is about this. We're going to do that. We're in the wave spell of the white dog, which is about the heart and compassion. We did a whole journey about the quest of the heart. So we do activities that are in alignment with the wave spell as well. And it becomes like magic. It becomes an adventure as well.
Yeah, in fact, the wave spell of the white dog kind of nicely exemplifies the fusion with the Mayan 1320 and then the plant medicine side of things. So we were working with the energy of the heart and of the dog, and we were guided to run a journey called the Quest of the Quantum Heart that took us actually around sacred sites in Mexico. But we were also working with heart medicine. So we invited a local curandera to come to perform a cacao ceremony with us. We invited hawthorn into the mix and other heart medicines. And so this is really where the plant and tree guides can step in. And I could have chosen any number of things to speak about, but I figured better to choose two of the tribal totems and two different beings who I think are pretty easily identifiable in their nature, which is the oak tree, Quercus, and dandelion, El Dandelion, or El Dandelero, as we call him in the best Spanglish that we could come up with. So really, I chose these just to exemplify a couple of points about how to understand tree consciousness and plant consciousness from the quantum plant intelligence perspective. So if you can move to the next slide, Danny, that would be good.
Sure.
So so the oak is really the tree of the Druids. I mean, it's a very profound tree. It was revered by the Druids, and they considered it to be the tree of the three doors, and that means that it would grant access to the lower world, the middle world, which we inhabit, and the upper world of the celestial beings. And so the Druids were able to transport themselves through consciousness to those realms and will be able to do their shamanic journeys in that way. The Druid order really is the later incarnation of the pre-Druid order, which was the Bardic order. Now, the Druids themselves have gone through many iterations, and that's probably not the scope of today's talk, but they really, really understood something powerful about the oak tree, that it was a solar being. And this really, in many ways, kind of brought into play the energies of the Christic consciousness, and the Druids went through a whole process when the Christic consciousness arrived to Ireland. Famous story about the monk St. Patrick. He was allowed to preach on the sacred Druid stone, and he actually ended up banishing the snakes or the serpents from Ireland. And so it doesn't really matter, even if you just go a couple of steps into these storylines, you start to hit elements of the Mayan calendar, of the stellar nations pathway, of the ancestors, who were the snakes or the serpents, who were they in our DNA, which leads us to some of our genetical ancestors, the Anunnaki, whose DNA forms part of our etheric DNA, along with Arcturians and Andromedans and Syrians and Pleiadians and Draco and quite a few others. It's all connected. So this is the beautiful thing about it. And of course, the oak really, he teaches us the values of holding space. If you look at an oak tree, it has that perfectly sort of formed circle around it often. But within that sort of boundaried space, the oak tree allows many other beings to inhabit that space with him. Sometimes including other trees. It's not uncommon to see another tree growing out of the branches of an oak tree. And of course, there are many animals and insects and birds that live in the branches of the oak. And the oak is a very generous tree in that regard. And so really and truly, from a sort of more esoteric perspective, the oak teaches us about how to become like the king or the queen, how to be in service to the collective without actually wanting to take anything from them, which is in stark contrast to the monarchy of more modern times, who seem very much in that mold. And so really this is the difference of the old ways of the natural system and the imported, inverted ways, is that the traditional kings, they were elected by the free Norns, the free fates that sit at the foot of Yggdrasil, the famous ash tree in Norse mythology. And, you know, all of these things, they all come into a place of culmination. And I find it fascinating that the oak really is also represented in astrology. Now, not many people had realized this, us included, right? With the Quercus asteroid.
Quercus, yeah, we follow the asteroid Quercus as well.
So you can find that asteroid 8643, and we've learned as a tribe, Danny, to actually be able to read the placement of Quercus in a number of different ways by understanding the energy of this tree. And again, when we talk to the ascended Master Zach, he offered the opinion, a couple of opinions really about the oak from what he knows. He said this is a very, very powerful celestial being, far more powerful than even the incumbent 3D manifestation would suggest. But also there is a possibility that the oak is a human from the future who has ascended the humanoid kind of a realm, we can say, and decided to come back to impart its wisdom as a tree being. And in many ways, I've often thought that maybe the ultimate journey of the humans is to become a tree, you know, because they're many,
Same
right?
here. They're amazing energy. You know, I like to go out into nature to meditate, and I can hear the trees sometimes. I mean, I know it
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but like they literally like welcome you, and they're like, "Would you like to sit here?" And I'm sorry about the sap, and you know, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, also the trees perform a really important function in terms of the Gaia grid. It's really the trees, and especially the oak tree, but not exclusively, who are able to hold the natural grid, not the inverted matrix of recent times, but the
Right.
actual original Gaia grid. And of course, we've learned from the work of people like Peter Verleben, who wrote the Secret History of Trees, I think, that trees communicate through the mycorrhizal network in the soil, which opens up a whole other world of quantum investigation. It's like, well, you know, there's obviously a subsurface wood wide web, which we can communicate with. And this is where learning to communicate into the grid network through the oak tree, hence the 3 doors, allows you access to commune with nature in general. And of course, the fungi are incredibly good at linking tree roots and sharing nutrients and information about incoming predators or pests. So that system also has an inbuilt self-defense network. And of course, if we want to be like the oak, then we have to learn about these things, all of which is often done through meditation and sitting underneath an oak tree on a glorious summer's day, which is quite a pleasant experience, right?
Yep.
But the oak is also very much connected to our solar plexus chakra and our sense of identity, which also sits at the center of our own energetic system's toroidal field. And when working with the oak tree, you become very aware of the toroidal field of yourself, of the tree, but also of Mother Earth. And in doing so, particularly in our tribe, we became aware earlier this year when we were working deeply with this, that the toroidal field of Mother Earth was indeed damaged and infiltrated and hijacked. So this comes in many, many different ways, which kind of probably is a bit of a link onto the next slide, where we meet dandelion. So really and truly, if we think about the oak tree, we can sort of say that's more geared toward the collective, the planetary grid, the macro. But dandelion really brings us into the present moment with ourselves. And unfortunately, the text has come out a little small. But at a quantum plant intelligence level, dandelion is both a Time Lord and a master geneticist. And that might sound like a fairly outlandish claim, except when you go into even the nursery rhymes and kids' stories around dandelion. You blow on the seed head, and you can have wishes granted, but you can also tell what time of day it is by which way the dandelions are pointing. And so there's always been this essence of dandelion time, which when you start to investigate it more deeply and energetically, really what dandelion brings to us, which is what all plants bring to us if we're into gardening, is that they bring us very much into the present moment of what am I doing right now? How am I connecting with the plant? How am I connecting with the soil, with these seeds or with these sprouts or with these baby plants? Am I treating them nicely? Or is my head thinking about the difficult email that I still need to answer and that I've been putting off for 2 weeks? All of which takes you out of the space of communicating with the plant, which then becomes even more important when you get into the world of making vibrational plant essences. You really don't want to be making an essence that has the vibration of the difficult email you haven't answered, as opposed to that of the vibration of the dandelion. So I used to make a lot of flower essences, and this was one of the ways that I would diet with a plant using the South American principles, would be to make an essence and a tincture and to spend time with the plant either through foraging or growing it, maybe for 10 days, maybe for 2 weeks. In the early days, I was super enthusiastic and hardcore. I would even fast for 10 days and only consume the plant as an elixir or as a variety of different medicines. And over the years that I did that, I kind of mixed up the ways that the plant would get alchemized from the form that you find it into the garden into some sort of medicine form, even as a tincture, an essence, a salve, a decoction, or a tea. So these were the ways that I started to commune with the plant. Sometimes I would work with sacred fungi as a journey to open up the dieta space, and then I would really go deep for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks with the plant, filling as much of myself and my awareness with the plant that I was working with. And I kind of did that continuously for 7 years. I learned a lot about plants in that way. And the beautiful thing when you spend that much time communicating with plants is that when you go out for a nature walk and you see all of them growing around you, it's like going for a walk with your friends. And there's something really heartwarming about that. But back to the world of dandelion, he teaches us the importance of being in the present moment and paying attention to what goes on. One of the most beautiful teachings that dandelion has given us is that you can ask almost any question of the quantum field, and wherever you are, it will respond. Even if you're in a desert, because dandelion told me this one time in a meditation. I was like, I don't know about that, dandelion. It's like, what happens if you're in a desert and there's nothing around? He said, don't worry, there's always tumbleweed, there's always a lizard, there's always a plant that you didn't see, or the wind will blow in a different direction. And all I'm asking you to do is feel into the energetic qualities of what's coming to you. And if it's the wind, it will speak to you from the direction that it's coming in or the style that it's coming. If it's an animal, that animal will represent a series of other energetic qualities. And very quickly, once you learn how to do this, with just 3 or 4 different hits from different directions, and not even big ones, you can actually quite often get to the answer of any question. So that is one way that dandelion teaches us to be in synchronistic time. And The other really beautiful thing about dandelion is he's a master geneticist, and we know this from the botanists who studied dandelion and tried to classify it by studying its physiology. And they had to stop after they identified at least 1,000 different subspecies of dandelion. And they were like, well, how come there's so many species? And then they looked into the chemistry of it, and they saw that dandelion was mutating its DNA at will. And it was doing this so that it could adapt to any environment. Hence why you can find dandelion growing fairly rigorously and robustly in the most obscure of places, because it's able to adapt to the environment that it finds itself in. All of which becomes very, very useful when you want to communicate with your own DNA, particularly where it's got damaged or corrupted, or maybe your soul had a fall, and that would be part of the corruption. And so we as a tribe have been really since the beginning communicating with our DNA, with dandelion, but in conjunction with the stellar nations constellational pathway, which is really the activation of our star selves through that DNA. So dandelion is really probably one of the most incredible plants you could ever work with, and he's also an incredibly friendly fellow. He loves to chat, he loves to joke around, but also at the same time, you know, working with dandelion is really opening up a communication line to working with the Lyran beings. It's very much in the Leonine energy. It's called the lion's tooth, and it embodies a lot of the qualities of those beings. And so, you know, the Lion's Gate portal is an excellent day to work with dandelion. We've had some powerful experiences, right, on the Lion's Gate portal with dandelion and synchronicities and timings. But all of that is really only in your awareness, Danny, if you're paying attention. And unfortunately, I think too much of our society is focused on stuff that's some time away from them and not really present enough to see the magic of the synchronistic messages that dandelion brings to you.
Well, since you introduced me to dandelion, I'm seeing it everywhere, and I think that, the listeners today will also start seeing dandelion everywhere because this whole slide just makes me smile.
I mean, there's a lot to
It's
talk about
yeah.
dandelion, so I'm not going to draw it out too long. But the other thing I wanted to mention was that dandelion, as a herbal medicine, is also an incredibly good detoxifier, particularly of the liver, which is often where we hold those angry emotions. But also, really, in the last 4 to 5 years, our bodies have become extra toxified with the amount of metallic substances in the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and pretty much everything that we touch. We are getting toxically poisoned by heavy metal constituents, and so dandelion is very, very good at detoxing those out of us. And we've been suggesting really for a while now that if you combine dandelion working with wormwood, which is Artemisia absinthium, it's very, very good at removing both physical and energetic parasites. And if you work with horsetail, which is really, really good at removing graphene oxide, then that's not a full detox, but it will probably clear about 95% of anything really detrimental in your system, just working with those 3 plants.
Amazing.
I want to add about dandelion being like, we feel like ambassadors of dandelion, and everything we've done has been like on his behalf from the beginning. And so he was a teacher that wanted to show us that we are multidimensional beings, all of us, but it depends on how you are focused and what kind of work you've done that you can actually tap into it. So just by looking at dandelion is the multidimensionality. It works on our DNA. It works as a detox of our body. It teaches us to be present and optimistic. If you start drinking dandelion tea, and I invite all of you to start drinking dandelion, it could be root or leaves, both. See the mood, like your mood, how it changes and how you feel lighter and happier and more optimistic. And then if we take it to the 5D and beyond, it taught us how to work on timelines. It taught us how to travel into different timelines or different lives that we've had to do healing work through meditation and different ceremonies we did. So it's an amazing plan that takes you through all of our multidimensional beings, and it teaches you to be able to be here now, simplify, be happy, but also if you need to go and do some big work like timeline work, you can also do that.
I mean, honestly,
Isn't it easier to do that though when you're actually in the moment and in the
You
Right,
flow?
need
yeah.
to get there in order to
Right?
do so.
Yeah.
In fact, in many ways, we call Dandelion the architect of a fifth dimensional being. The fifth dimension really is the place of non-duality, but Dandelion teaches us to be in the flow, to be present with every moment, to see the synchronicities, all of which are major constituents of living in the 1320 calendar. So right from, Dandelion, there's so much to talk about this wonderful plant, and we ran a whole immersion on it right back at the beginning of when we started the whole. The very first one was a dandelion immersion, because it was dandelion that suggested, really, even before me and Bella had met, about doing global immersions. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure if you can replicate what we did in a 4-day, in-person retreat onto online. And I was skeptical, the online can be hijacked. And Dandelion was very adamant. It's like, no, I think this is going to work and it's going to be beneficial for many people. Just trust the process. We're going to make sure that you're looked after, Davyd. All of your concerns about security and hijacking and sharing of magic online have all been noted, and measures have been taken to ensure that that's not going to be the case. So I was like, okay, fair enough. Dandelion encourages us to be outward going and to jump into something with our intuition behind it, and some level of confidence. And Dandelion gave us all of that. And so that's really how this work started with quantum plant healing and QPW. So you can go on to the next slide, Danny, the last one, if you want.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So I just put this here really as a way of exemplifying why I chose these two wonderful beings. So by working with Dandelion, it brings us more and more into the present moment, where time truly is art, as Bella was saying earlier. And the oak offers us access to the cosmos. Really and truly, we can become like the oak. And once we learn how to journey into the portals within us that the oak gives us as a blueprint, we then realize that we can journey into the macro of the cosmos through the tree of the three doors. So all of these old teachings that we get from the witches' almanacs and grimoires and the teachings of the druids that often seem obscure and a little kind of antiquated, when you go into a meditation space or a dieta with them, this information all comes through because it's coming from the quantum plant intelligence, which of course is operating at a different level just from the plant in the 3D. So the oak can also be a guide to true sovereignty, which is a lot of what this journey that we're all in right now is about. But it also shows us how to work with the toroidal field technology, which has become a sort of stable foundation for all of us in our tribe. Activating the toroidal field with the vertical alignment of your chakras and the horizontal alignment of your inner elementals, thus creating the sacred cross within yourself, is part of your toroidal field. And the more that you get that energy flowing up and out in equal and opposite directions, the more you can get activated and more the work with your DNA can come into play, and so on and so forth. And this is where Dandelion shows us how to be in the flow. But the oak also shows us that once we have that toroidal field flowing, we are actually self-contained and self-resourcing energetic beings. We should be able to recycle our energy and be able to survive in this way. That is what a contained system does. Unfortunately, most of us have had too many breaks along the way, and our systems are not quite working or functioning 100%. So really, when we consider these two celestial beings and how to work with them, we can say that Dandelion is the day-to-day, under your foot reminder. It's like waving at you all of the time. Stay present. Look what's underneath your feet. You nearly stood on me, fella. And look what you're about to step in over there. And so it gives you that pause for thought to always just go, wow, actually, what am I doing? Where was my head at just then? And how far away was it from the present moment to the point where I almost missed that turning that I needed, or whatever it is in that moment that you were meant to be doing. And so
the signs or the synchronicity.
Yes. Yeah, more on the esoteric kind of metaphysical level, the dandelion will always, in our experience, has a habit of showing up literally in our visible range at critical moments. And whenever that happens, dandelion's always going, hey, you need to pay attention to what's about to happen. And in our experience, those moments often are precursors to something quite significant happening, often good things. And really, just to conclude, the oak offers us a vehicle with which to travel to the stars and the dimensions which those parts of our soul DNA exist on. And so really, by working with the oak and the dandelion, you give yourself the opportunity to work on the etheric DNA within inside of you. And once that's been repaired, those open up portals to yourself, or aspects of yourself that might exist in the constellations and the stars at a fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, seventh, eighth dimensional level. And once you start doing that, communicating with those aspects of yourself, you suddenly realize that you are an incredibly large being that exists across quite a broad spectrum of light, and different parts of you in different parts of the universe can communicate with you. But you also need to give that the attention and intention that it deserves, so that you can communicate with the part of you that is your dragon DNA that resides in the Draco constellation, or the part of you that is the more serpentine Anunnaki qualities, because our DNA is made up of all of these different star beings that experimented in the human earthly experience. So I think that's it on the presentation, Danny. I think that's the last of the slides.
Oh, cool.
I mean, there's so much to
Beautiful.
say. And, yeah.
I have a question for you, though. I have a question for you, though, about the plants, because, you know, I'm a homeowner and a property owner, and a lot of times, you know, the question comes up: should we remove that tree? You know, just practical, like, oh my gosh, we have to do something, and should we do it? Um, and so I'm curious what your thoughts are on, like, since you've communed with these plants, like how they feel about that. About being removed and used and things like
So
that.
one of the main teachings out of all of this work with the plants is to realize that they are us and we are them. We're part of the same thing. So when you're ready to go and talk to the trees, you can sit under them and ask the questions through meditation, and you will receive the information. It just takes for you to be receptive and open-hearted to do that kind of communication. If we summarize it, plant communication is down to an open heart and good intentions, and be willing to learn and receive. Yeah. And you will just ask the questions. Are you okay with moving? Is it time to cut you? What should I do here? They will give you the answers.
I mean, when I was first learning about this, Danny, we used to call it the ping FUD method. So this would kind of be relevant if we were going to talk to a plant to see if it would be agreeable to make an essence. And if our body got a ping, like, oh, yes, that seems like a positive reaction, or if there was like a, no, that doesn't feel like the plant's agreeing to it. And, you know, over the years of making essences, I was very much part of the essence making community in Britain, and I spoke to many different people. And I had a good friend who was also more on the shamanic side of things. And he said, you know, don't you think, brother, that really and truly the most important thing in making essences is that the plant agrees to share its medicine? Because it's basically quantum. It's going to impart the energetic vibration into the water, which we then fix with alcohol. And that's basically as simple as it needs to be. But if you go back to the Edward Bach system, you know, you couldn't make an essence if a cloud passed over the sky, and a whole variety of other bits and pieces, which in Britain made it quite difficult because there's always a lot of clouds in the sky. And so I was like, I'm not really sure about this. If I'm communicating with the plant at the quantum level, I don't think it's really dependent on being activated by the sun. It just needs to have a clear communication with the plant. And, you know, you can perform nice rituals to bless the plant in the essence. And for sure, you don't want too much of yourself to go in the essence. So you kind of have to be in a very, very clear mind. But really and truly, when communicating with trees and plants, it's kind of, yeah, as Bella said, you're communicating through the collective consciousness with the part of you that is dandelion.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, for sure, somebody mentioned here in the chat about the war that is waged on dandelion, poor old fellow with Roundup. And, you know, it's kind of, yeah, you know, I used to see the lawn mowing disease in the small village that I lived in Wales. And I was like, oh, man, you've just mown down a whole load of medicine for your liver, which, judging from the way that you're triggered in many situations, I would suggest that you probably need. And the same thing happened with a beautiful stand of elder trees that we had. Somebody ended up chopping those all down. And in the ancient laws of Britain, it was punishable by death to chop an elder tree down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's many myths around the elder tree, but really, if you think about elderberry medicine, it's a high-powered adaptogen that's actually able to speak to our body medicine and bypass the brain and just ask the cells in our body and our organs directly, what does Davyd need? And then it produces the necessary result. I mean, when you think about that, it makes you realize just how far behind Western medicine actually is. You know, you're speaking to a being that you imbibe, and by doing that, it's able to work out exactly what you need. I mean, that's so much better than artificial intelligence, in my opinion. It's nature intelligence, you know. So,
That's amazing. This stuff's so mind blowing. I'm just so, yeah, it's so cool.
So
So
yeah,
cool.
if you want to, if you need to chop down trees, the best thing to do is, and this is a general rule I found when gardening, is I'd have some plants that would get a bit unruly and start taking over, and I'd be like, "Come on, guys, there's like at least 100 other plants that all need to grow in this garden because I need the medicine from all of them, and I can't have one of you taking 60%." And so I put it really clear: it's like if you start to take over, I'm going to have to cut you back. Not because I want to, but just because you're taking over. And so some of them tested that theory in the first season, but by the second year, the plants were all much better behaved, much more orderly, and growing in recognition of the fact that they were part of a collective unified whole, which was the whole garden. So I started to realize that you could speak to all plants in this way, and that would take the sting out of them being foraged or harvested, or in the case of a tree being chopped down, which is never something that most of us really want to do. But if you explain to the tree, like, I need to chop these branches because otherwise you're going to perhaps take the roof off my house, or if you fall over in a storm and it's nothing personal, and maybe you can redirect your soul forces to the other tree over there, and any spirits in the tree, maybe you give them a week's warning to let them move out and nature spirits into other parts of the garden, or whatever
I
is
think more than
necessary.
anything, to approach the tree as a sentient being.
Yes.
Like, what would you say to a sentient being, and saying, "I'm going to chop you off," or do you have a conversation?
Yeah, I'm going to kill you. Yeah.
Right.
I think it's a little bit of humility, I think, from on our behalf, because they were here before us. All of the trees were here well before us, millions of years ahead in the evolution in this planet from us. So there is a lot we want to learn from them.
I mean, maybe as a final thought on the trees and plants, I like to think of them as bodhisattvas. They came back to be in service, to offer their medicine and their wisdom. And what do they ask for in return from humans? Nothing really, just not to have Roundup put on them and not to be treated badly. And I think that's a pretty good deal. You know, I've received so many gifts and healing and blessings from all of the tree and plant spirits I've worked with. I mean, I don't know where I would be in my life without the trees and plants, to be honest.
I love the comment from one of your people. I asked the mosquitoes to leave me alone while doing moon work, and they did. And it's absolutely the same with animals. We do it here with the insects, with the wasps. All sorts of animals show up when we're doing certain things. There was an eagle here yesterday that came right to my door as well. So when you open yourself to communication, they will also be willing to do it, but you need to be receptive to it. And I think, if not humble, at least to appreciate how important they are, and that they are part of us as well. And they have a lot to teach us as well.
Right, and I think that's part of the offer with the 13 moons, is that each of the moons has an animal totem, and you can invite that animal spirit into your awareness, you know. And it's not difficult to go out and communicate with the bats or the deers or even the scorpions or the rabbits or any of the other animals in there. And what we've been finding just in the last few weeks since opening the account on the 13 Moon Almanac is that all of us have had so many more visceral animal experiences where it feels like the animals actually want to communicate with us directly, which I think is a big step in the human nature relations moving forwards.
Yeah, great. You guys, you blew my mind. I hope everyone listening had their mind blown. Yeah, I'm excited to follow this 13 moon journey. I think you could add to your galactic reading that energy of the house if it resonates in a way that is a pathway, because that house system is a pathway as well. So yeah, I love
So
that.
would you say that the first house is the house of Scorpio?
It could be, or it could be the bat. It could be just be the bat is the first house. The magnetic bat is like you coming out into the world, you starting things, that kind of thing. Yeah. So we will work on that. And then I think you and I should definitely try to decode that Dresden Codex and see what we can come up with on that. I think that'll be really fantastic. Cool. Yeah.
I'm also reading a book on Venus as Quetzalcoatl in Spanish. When I finish it, I'll give you the points. It's really
awesome.
exciting.
Yeah. And I would definitely want to have either both of you or Bella, or just dip back to, if you come up with something new that you found out either in constellational astrology or through this 13 moon journey. I'd love to have you guys back and talk with us some more, because wow, you guys are a wealth of information. I hope you all are writing books, because I mean, this is it right here. This is it. So
We love
let's see if
what you're doing too, and I think there is like there are so many points where we cross, and I feel the frequency is very similar, and I think it all has to do with the 13 and synchronicities and being in the new flow and being receptive and blah blah blah. So I'm sure that there will be many new things to come from both sides.
Yeah, it really feels like this is a time of convergence, Danny, and obviously we're converging with you through the 13 signs and the 13 moons. But there are so many other correlations to this. Like there's a 13 Celtic tree calendar, which we're informally investigating within our tribe, and this is the moon of the hazel tree. And so we're looking to see these correlations where we expand into the 13 and to see how it all overlays as different coordinate points or our inner quantum compass. So hopefully this has inspired some of your audience to investigate some of these other 13 tracks as well.
Oh, I think they will. I think you'll probably have 100 or 200 new subs by the time we're done with this. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, we'll close it out here. If you guys want to hang up, that's fine. I'm going to play the intro as the outro, and then I usually just say "love you guys" in the chat, and then I hang up. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys, and I love knowing you, and I'm so glad that you're a part of our journey over here, and that you've invited me into your journey. It's quite an honor. Thank you so much, Danny.
Beautiful. Thank you so much,
Thank
Danny.
you, Danny.
All right, love y'all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.